Hi friends, together on 23. Ooh, it's chilly out here this morning. I want us to start as we always do by touching something of nature. Go find something right now. I'm going to walk across the street. It's extra quiet today. And touch my neighbour's lawn. Some grass. I mean, not grass, a leaf with some bumps. What do you feel? Okay. Are you ready to begin? In 3, 2, and 1. Yeah, we're definitely a little on the chilly side this morning. Feels good. Headlamp fully charged and on. Mentioned last time that my headlamp was not charged and it was barely on, which was pretty funny, but it's good to go now. And I have my reflective vest on, which a friend just borrowed. It's a little loose, just tightening that up. And yeah, time for another together run. Now this brings in the question, the thought that I've been having about what exactly I'm going to do with these once the weather gets any colder than it is right now. I have a long sleeve on today, but it's not really cold enough for gloves. But I remember trying to do these last year in gloves, and it's really hard to hold my phone with gloves on. And so I could do it during the day when it's a bit warmer out and select carefully. But during the day there's a lot more cars and noise, and I think one of the things that's nice about these is there is usually a pretty good lack of noise and cars driving around, so it does feel better on your end to hear just the odd car. But we can discuss that when we get to it. For now, let's put us back into the here and now, where we are right now, and we're going to work our way through what we usually do. And the first thing we're going to do is our body scan. For anyone who is on their first together run, welcome. Excited you're joining us. If a friend has told you about this and it's your first time trying and you're thinking this is a bit weird, totally get it. It does sound weird, doesn't it? But I hope you'll see it's pretty magical, and it's pretty cool that we get to do it together. So when I say start with a body scan, I feel like I'm out of breath today. When I say start with a body scan, what I mean is we're going to start at the top of our heads, and when I tell you, you will scan down, almost like a warm wave of light is scanning down from your head all the way from your toes. I will call out specific areas and see, you can just pay attention to how they're feeling. There's certain areas I might tell you to loosen up, but for the most part you're just paying attention, and we're just checking in with our bodies. Ready? Okay. Starting from the top of your head, scanning down through your eyes, back of your head, the round of the back of your head, whatever that's called. Occipital? No, I don't think that's the right word. Ears, going into your nose and your jaw, into the front of your neck, around the back of your neck, going into your shoulders, around the front, your clavicle, going into your upper arms, down into your lower arms, your wrist, and your fingers. Make sure your fingers are nice and loose. should be maybe putting your thumb, resting your thumb on that first finger, on the second, third, middle third of the finger. That's a good place to rest your finger. Keeps it nice and loose. Oh, do you hear that owl? I can hear it. Going back to the chest. I'm just going to let us pause and see if you can hear that. Oh no, stop now. Going down into the chest, into your stomach, your lower back, going into your hips and pelvis, your glutes, into the upper quad and lower quad, your hamstrings, into your knees, into your upper calf and lower calf, ankles, arch, heel, and toes. How's your body feeling? For me, outside of one of my feet is a little bit sore from all the steep downhills I did during my long run. And as I am a heel striker, I think I've just maybe bruised it a little bit. So it does hurt a little bit. But it did yesterday and it kind of warmed up into it. Didn't really change throughout the run. So for now I'm going to keep going with it. But this may end up being a shorter together run if it gets worse. I'm not afraid to turn it off if I need to. But yeah, that's definitely what is on my mind, as we always often have when we have a little niggly pain come up, is our mind kind of loops back to that, right? It keeps, you'll go think about other things and it will loop back to whatever you're worried about in your body injury-wise, which is where my brain keeps going. So, how did your body feel overall? Next, I want to ask you mentally, how are you? If I was to ask you that question, if we were in person right now, what would you say? What would be your longer explanation of how you're doing? What would you tell me? We're going to run back towards that owl because I just love hearing owls. My family is a bit obsessed with owls, as Bailey has led the charge with us, but yeah, always cool to hear them. So we're going to run back that way. But I want you to tell me, how are you? I don't hear it. I must be near here somewhere, because it can probably hear me sitting quietly. It's probably in these trees above me. Okay. Thank you for telling me how you are. As for me, I can hear it again now. As for me, yeah, a little concerned for my foot. Oh, I'm just going to give it a second. Listen. Why don't I stop for a second? You can keep running. Oh, I can see my breath. That's when you know it's cooler. Nope. I'm going to have to start running again. Oh, bummer. Okay, I'm going to let the owl go. Goodbye, owl. Yeah, mostly I'm feeling good. Feeling optimistic that the UK is going to be allowed back in the US. So hopefully I can get my parents to come over. And it makes it easier for us to go over as well. So that is very exciting. Had a good writing block of time again yesterday and talked to some experts in the field on that chapter. So I'm feeling good about that. I'm excited to keep digging in on the book. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about my foot. It's not really on my mind, I would say, but it's definitely something that I'm thinking of when it hurts around. And then actually, something that I've been wondering lately, so I said at the beginning I was out of breath, and you might be able to tell I'm coming off a cold, and I've caught most colds that Bailey's got in the last few weeks. Now that could be because I'm run down. Well, I don't feel run down, but it could be just the marathon training. But I wonder, can anyone tell me, would it be because I'm from England, the viruses would be different viruses to the ones here in the US? I mean, I know they're probably all worldwide at this point, but we'll cheer it. I know they're different at this point. Oh, they're all around the world at this point, but could they be just less where? Like when I was a kid in England? Is that why? Because Steve doesn't seem to be getting any of them. Oh, I've got to be quiet for a minute. Let's listen. He's gone quiet again. I feel like I'm like, there's so many cool noises out right now. But I feel like I'm like one of those nature show presenters chasing animal noises. Except I'm like stomping around with my feet and they're super sensitive hearing. They're like, shut up! We're trying to talk and you're loud and your feet are making noise. I love hearing owls at night. I know they're like supposed to be a little bit creepy, but Bailey is just, I've mentioned this before, obsessed with them. And she's just kind of got the rest of us hooked. Chloe loves them. I love them. Steve, we all get excited. Even the other morning, we had our window open overnight and there was an owl going ooh, 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 outside our window at like 3 a.m. And I was like, Steve, do you hear that? And he was like, yeah. And I honestly thought about getting out of bed to go grab Bailey to wake her up so she could hear it. But I knew all that commotion would probably make him fly away. Off tangent. But yeah, things are mostly going well. I'm having a bit of a decision with Boston. I've decided I don't want to do the event at Tracksmith. Nothing against them at all. I'm just not sure morally how I feel about having 50 people in a small room with things the way they are. I do think about, if I got COVID, how that might take me out of training for a few weeks, and then that would put me right up to close to New York. And I don't know if I don't know if I want the risk myself, but I also don't know if I want to encourage us to do it just yet. I just don't know if we're ready to do 50 people in a tightly packed room. And they do have a vaccine requirement or a negative test and a mask mandate for it, but still, I don't know, something just wasn't sitting right with me. And as you know, I'm very much about my trusting my gut, and my gut was saying hold off, especially because we wanted it was going to be a Running Realised live show. And as you know, a Running Realised podcast is very high audio quality and production. It's a lot of time and effort and energy goes in to make it NPR style, and we were really proud of what we created. But if we want to do a live one of those, we want to knock it out of the park for you, and we will be doing one, but we want to make it unlike any live show anyone's ever been to. So, or unlike any live thing anyone's been to, and I'm just not sure we would be able to do that right now. And so, yeah, that said, please email me if you do want to meet up. I may well do a group run of some kind, or if not, I will definitely be at the Tracksmith group runs. So I would love to have you join there, because I feel okay about going for runs outside. It was more just the inside event that was making me feel a bit uncomfortable. And it wasn't them pushing me. I was the one that suggested it. I was the one that said it. And so, yeah. Okay, we're 17 minutes in and we haven't even started our census check-in. So apologies for the off-tangentness of today. But this is real, right? Sometimes we do take a while to get into what we're doing. So, if you haven't done one of these before, we are going to take time to check in with our 5 senses. Sight will be last because we overstimulate our eyesight, we overuse it. We are visual creatures, but we still definitely rely on it too much. So we are going to start with our taste and smell. So let's take a nice deep breath. Let's take another deep breath. Now, if you're like me, you don't actually get anything smell-wise when you do that. Maybe you do. But I just like to do that to start. So, take a sniff. What do you smell? I smell like fresh. Don't know what that means, but that's what I'm going to describe it as, fresh. What do you taste? I taste my AG1. As you may have seen, I said a few days ago that Athletic Greens has rebranded their main powder to be AG1. Looks really good, actually. Still the same 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients. Same really powerful punch of all the superfoods and things you could need. But they're calling it AG1. And that's what I taste. because I had it first thing this morning. Okay, next we're going to go to hearing. I've moved away from our friend Owl, so we're not going to be hearing that, but I want you to take out your headphones, earbuds, and I want you to listen to your surroundings and try and really hone in on those details. What do you hear? Okay, what did you hear? Anything you don't normally hear? Anything you do normally hear but don't today? It's really cool, I suppose, if you're someone who travels and can do these, and you can, explore your new surroundings, notice what's different, what's the same in terms of what you see, hear, feel, taste and smell. It'll be interesting. Okay. For me, one thing I noticed right now is it sounds very quiet out. And now the cicadas are going away. It just seems quieter and quieter in the mornings. It's also darker, but it just feels very quiet. I can also hear the cars a lot more than I did before, which, isn't maybe what I want to hear, but I guess in some ways it's reassuring to know I'm not the only one out here. Okay, next we're going to do feel. You're going to pay attention to your sense of touch. What is jumping out at you? What is your brain aware of in terms of touch? Let's just begin that now. Okay, what did you feel? What was jumping out at you for your sense of touch? For me, first thing that I'm aware of is my hands feel cold, not numb, but they just haven't felt cold in a while. Can also feel the coldness of my phone more than I normally do. I also had one of those itchy spots that we get on our leg, and you just can't take your brain off it. So you may have heard me try and swap my leg as I try to scratch away that itch. I also feel my sleeve of my shirt bouncing on my wrist. Not used to that. And there's a few of mine. Okay. And finally, what do you see? Remember, as usual, we want to be making sure we're looking far into the distance, picking a spot far away, trying to hone in on that detail. And then let's do that first. Let's look forward, look into the distance as far as your eyes can see, and try and hone in on something small. What do you see up ahead? As we get closer, try and figure out what that thing is. And if you need to look at other things straight ahead, do that. Okay, now let's look to the left. What do you see? Be sure to look up, look down, try and pick details. Try and pick a few things of detail rather than just your eyes just kind of darting around. Really hone in on what those details are. Details, as some people say. And then turn your head a little closer to the middle, diagonal to the left. What do you see there? And to the right, all the way to the right. What do you see there? And right diagonal. Pick a detail. See the stars are out again in beautiful fullness, is that word today? I like seeing that. All right, and thank you for doing your census check-in. You're already at 26 minutes. You're doing 30 minutes. You've got a few minutes left and we'll do a few strides. Now, last week, if you missed it, after you went 30-minute group, I started explaining about what overstriding is. And so I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that one again if you missed it. And I apologise because this is so on the moment. I don't have a plan for what I'm going to talk about, and so I can't really tell you ahead of time what you're going to miss out on. That said, today I was thinking I might go over a question I had about some little environmental things you can do within your own life. So that's probably what I'll focus on in the second half of the podcast, or the Together run. But that part on Together, on overstriding, would probably be helpful if you are a newer runner or haven't done strides before or tend to have shin issues. All right, so I think today, when we get to the 30-minute mark, we're all going to stop and take our picture so that you can share it with me on social, share it with your friends, running group, get more people doing this. I really would love if we could get like a massive group of people doing these. And it'd be really cool if at some point we could have like a live one. Mike suggested this, doing it on Zoom. But I'd love if we could get enough time and warning that we could have it be a time that could work for the most people, and we could all go out together, ahead of time, and we can just go for a run together, like literally together. Like I would have someone be an admin who would be staying on the computer to make sure people are muted and unmute people if they have a question, and you could just pop in and unmute yourself to say something. I think that would be really cool, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on if that is something you would enjoy. I have a cyclist coming very slowly to overtake me, and so I think today we will stop at the 30-minute mark and get that photo. Oh yeah, I'm going down a hill. My foot definitely hurts on the downhill, not so much the uphills. So there's got to be something about slowing myself down on downhills. Obviously haven't got my form quite right for it or something. There you go, that's a good example of I said about not doing strides before on, not doing your strides on downhills when you're not used to it. Well, maybe you don't do like 7 miles downhill or steep downhills when you're not used to it either. So even us experienced runners can still sometimes get ourselves into trouble. All right, so a few more seconds. We'll all come to a walk. 30-minute people, you're going to just keep walking when we get running again. And I'll tell you when to take a stride. Okay, so let's come to a walk. Take a picture. There's another owl. Do you hear it? Probably not. I hear it. Let's just say it's cool. People are going to be like, wow, this girl is owl obsessed. You know, your kids tend to do that. Parents, is that right? Things that your kids love, you just tend to, by default, love them too. Okay, take a picture. What do you see? It doesn't matter what you see. It doesn't matter what you look like. I'm not seeing this, looking at this to... I can't stop listening to that owl. I'm not looking at this to judge you or even look at what you're looking like, other than to just visualize what it would be like to run with you. Okay, taking one. All right, let's start again. And 30-minute group, you can just hang out for a few more seconds and then we'll begin a stride. We'll give you another little break. We'll do another stride. This is just going to be 10 to 15 seconds and about 80% of your max. And then you'll be on your way, unless you want to keep walking and listening. All right, I'm going to loop around and we'll begin our stride in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, slow to a jog or to a walk if it's 30 minutes. Give a little bit of time and then we'll do another one. And then you'll be on your way. And there'll be 2 groups left. Okay. Are we ready for another one? 10 to 15 more seconds. No need to sprint. About 80%. You ready? 3, 2, and 1. Okay. And so to a jog or a walk, 45 and 60. Whenever you feel ready to return your speed to your normal, do it. 30-minute group. Thank you for joining me. You can go support me on Patreon if you have the means. You can also leave a review, a rating on iTunes if you haven't done that before. And a massive thing you can do is share your Together Run, whether it's a picture of you or it's a screenshot of the Together Run on your social media, and say what you enjoyed with it. We all know that our friends and family really trust our recommendations, especially in this influencer world. And if they say, or if you say, or someone you love says, I really enjoyed this, there's a much higher chance you're going to try it out. So you don't have to put yourself if you're uncomfortable. But yeah, would love to see more of your Together Run screenshots or what you saw. Thank you for joining me. Okay, 45-minute group, 60-minute group. Should be back into your normal running cadence at this point. And okay, so let's talk. Before I get to that, actually, I want to ask you, how are you doing? If you are on a 45 or a 60 minute, there's a high chance you are someone who's done these before. And so, you know, I like to ask, what have you been up to? How are you doing? Tell me some news. Now, if I were to ask you that right now, what would you tell me? And I'll just give a few more seconds in case you're still thinking about what you'd say. Okay, thank you for sharing. And I don't want to respond in a particular way because I don't know if what you told me was good or bad, but I just say thank you for sharing, and I appreciate you. I appreciate that you have vulnerability and openness to share things with me, even if I can't actually hear them. I do genuinely believe that if we were doing this and you were beside me right now, you would be honest with me. And so thank you for that. Because it's not always easy to do, is it? Especially when we're in a world where we're supposed to put out a front that everything's going well and everything's okay. So I'm assuming you'd have some honest struggles that you're going through right now in there. Or at least I would, if we were talking right now. I kind of told you mine though, didn't I, when I was saying how I was. I told you the bits I would mention. And so, yeah, don't really have much to add there. But I think maybe now we'll begin. I'll talk about what I was saying with environmental stuff. As I'm writing this Becoming a Sustainable Runner book, a large part of that is the planet. And actually, before I get to that, I've been in communication still with the United Nations, and there's this incredible man called Lewis Pugh who just swam across the Arctic. I think it was either 10 or 12 days of swimming, like in the ice cap filled water. He did this swimming to raise awareness for climate change and the leaders going into the United Nations Climate Conference in November. And I mean, incredible that he was able to do that, but also, you know, just wow. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around swimming amongst the polar ice caps, you know. That's hard on the body. I'm losing my train of thought. You know why? Because I need to go to the bathroom and I see a porta potty, so I'm just going to pop in there, friends. I'm going to I'm going to keep my watch going so you can keep running. I'll be right back. Okay, I thought I stopped my thing. I guess I didn't. So that was recording the whole time. That was quick, right? That's another step in our friendship here. Just left that recording, so you saw how quick I was. That said, that one was definitely leaning backwards. God, that stresses me out so much. Have you had that experience where you get in one and they're leaning back and you feel like you're gonna like tip it backwards and it's gonna fall over on you? That was a definite stressful one because of the lean back. So, sorry about that, friends, but running for real. Stomach was upset, and we had quite a bit to go. That said, because I didn't stop recording, I don't know. I stopped my watch, so I think I'm just going to have you go with my watch so that it's not confusing. So I'm going to tell you when we are at, when I'm at 45 minutes, which is going to be over 45 minutes for you, or over 60 minutes for you. But you're just going to, either if you are at a strict end point, you just walk. If you are okay to do a minute or two extra, do it. Okay. All right, friends. So Lewis doing this amazing feat. He did it. He's talked about how, by the way, he wasn't wearing like some super wetsuit. He was wearing Speedos. Incredible, right? And so he did this event, and I've been in communication still with the UN myself, and they said, is there anything you wanted to do leading up to the event? And the first thing that came into my mind was, I'm not enough to do those kind of things. Like I would not, even if I endurance-wise could swim in the Arctic, I don't think or don't know if mentally I could. And when I think about running, all the running things like that have been done, right? There's run across America, run, through the Arctic, run in Antarctica. All those things have been done. So, at this point, if I could think of something that I think I could do and would be realistic, I think I would skip not Boston maybe, because I'm committed to Kyle and it wouldn't have come together that quick anyway. I would skip New York. I would skip my 50k because this is that meaningful to me. And so if you have any ideas of something, it would have to be something, not spectacular in terms of has to be 1,000 miles, but it would have to be attention grabbing, right? And the only thing I could come up with was to just keep running around the building that they are hosting this in Scotland. Scottish, I can't remember the name of it, something centre in Scotland. So the only thing I could come up with was to keep running loops around that building for the entire 12-day conference. But if you have any suggestions, and again, they've got to be realistic. Like, I can't run across Australia. I can't, get over there, but there's all kinds of things, it'd have to be realistic in terms of physically could achieve, but also with COVID stuff. But I thought the running around the building thing could be kind of like that race people do in New York. That Sanjay Rawal talked about in an earlier episode of the podcast, the Transcendence Run. So the 3100 run every summer. And so, if you have ideas, let me know, because I'd love to do something that would help to get people aware of this conference and talking about it, and just, I think it would be a really cool thing for me to be a part of. Okay, so I think I'm going to wait now at this point to talk about my suggestions until after we've done our 2 strides with the 45-minute group. So let me just talk for another. Actually, you know what? Let's do a body scan, and then we'll go into our strides. Okay, so I want you to start at the top of your head. I'm not going to prompt you this time. You're just going to scan down yourself and notice how you feel compared to the beginning of the run. If you're finished, just reflect on how you're feeling for a minute. Okay, what do you notice? Things feel better? Things feel more stiff? Give your arms a shake out, and let's come to a walk. If you're 45-minute, give your arms a shake out. Loosen those eyes if they're scrunched or squinting, and relax your jaw if that's clenched. How do you feel now overall? Things feel better? Things feel worse? The same? Sorry, I shouldn't be using those words. How do things feel in general? What did you notice? I'm going to give you a few more seconds to walk. You don't need long if you can run for 45 minutes between strides. So in just a second, we're going to do another 10 to 15 seconds, and we'll have a little rest and do it again. Okay, in 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to keep going for a second. I'm not going to do this bit. Okay, and come to a jog or a walk. I was just coming into a downhill, and as I mentioned, that hurts my foot. So okay, take a few more seconds recovery, do one more stride, and then 45-minute group. You can hang around and listen, or you can get on with your day. Okay, let's do another stride in 3, 2, and 1. And coming to a jog or a walk, 45-minute group. Thank you for joining me. Really loved running with you. We took a new step today with my bathroom stop, but that'd be like what it would be like if we were in person, right? You would be standing outside. Thank you for joining me. As you heard, there were no ads in this episode, but you can go support me on Patreon. You can go share this on social media, share it in your running groups, or leave a review on iTunes. Those are 3 big ways you can help and support. And also listen to the other conversations on Fridays, the regular Running for Real episodes. Those episodes are there to help us learn and grow. We do have a massive guest coming on the 1st of October. He is a big get. not quite as big as Malcolm, but up there. And so I would love for you to listen. So be sure you're subscribed. That really helps me out as well. Or following, I think it's called on Spotify. And I'll see you Friday for another episode and next Monday for a Together Run. Okay. 60-minute group as always. We have about 11 minutes left. So we'll do our strides in the last few minutes of the run, because you can handle that. But for now, okay, so environmental stuff. First thing I'm going to say is the same thing I always say, in that these little things, the things you can do as an individual, make absolutely zero difference if all of us did them, if nothing changes policy-wise and at the top. It's so important to mention, because the narrative is going to be trying to shift. The big companies, the fossil fuel companies, are trying to change the messaging to that it's all on us, that we're not trying hard enough, that we don't have the willpower, that not enough people are doing it. But they're doing that so that the attention is off them. So I want to mention that first, because the number one thing has to be to hold them accountable and to keep pushing. There's an amazing episode of How to Save the Planet podcast called Shareholders versus Exxon, and it talks about how things are changing by people like you and I speaking up. Or there's another episode of that on Amazon workers, and how a few Amazon workers got everything changed. And it didn't, they would never say it came from them, but the correlation is clear. And so you do have power within your influence, where you work, your children's schools. What influence can you have? Because that is where you're really going to get change. And I just want to mention that first, because that's so important, but it's something that we often we don't want to deal with that, right? Because that's the big stuff, and it feels so overwhelming, and I totally get it. But it is what makes a difference. If you can get change in your community as a whole, again, from How to Save the Planet, I learned about this Venn diagram you can fill out. And if someone messages me, I'll put it on my social media, and I'll put it in the show notes for this, so you can do it. But it will look at the things that you are passionate about, the things that you are good at, and there's a third piece, I can't remember what it is, that will figure out which area of making change is best suited for you. For me, it's waste. I'm obsessed with reducing waste. And so I'm using my platform to talk about climate change. I'm also constantly finding ways to educate other people on reducing waste and talking about ways to think about our future. So that's my role, but you have your own role. And it's not going to be mine, because you may not have the platform like mine, or you may not be passionate about the things that I am passionate about within climate change. So if someone reminds me, I'll put that Venn diagram in there. Okay, that said, I do see things as kind of on a continuum, that once you start thinking about things you can do, you will just want to continue learning, and you can't stop, and you'll keep finding ways to help. That said, we've got to be really, really aware once you start making these changes that you're not getting sucked in by advertising or what they call greenwashing. And I recently learned actually about on a Malcolm Gladwell laundry episode of revisionist history. And again, if someone reminds me, I'll put that in the show notes. as well as how to save a planet. So someone please remind me. They talked about the fact that these green plant-based washing powders and washing liquids and dishwashing soaps are not actually doing the job, and they're making you, yes, they're plant-based, but what does that do if you have to use tons and tons more water to get it clean? Like, for example, we, with our dishwasher, had to make everything, basically you couldn't see any food on there before putting it in there. You had to get it, rinse it off with hot water to get the dried food off, put it in, and our dishwasher would basically sanitize. And that means I'm using double the hot water, but also, what is the point of the dishwasher, you know? So for me, it was better off to use the actual, as much as I don't want to, the Cascade, or whatever the big brand is in your country, because it actually, dishwashers use less hot water than washing up. So that means running my dishwasher more in a week and washing up less. And yeah, I know that's kind of hard to believe, but most dishwashers now do use less energy, or yes, they definitely use less hot water, which is better for the environment than it is to use a ton of hot water. So just be aware that sometimes green solutions aren't always best, and I get that that's totally overwhelming, but I would generally stay away from the things that are labelled organic made or are from a company that seems massive. Like if they're in Walmart and every store, then they're probably not, they've probably been bought out by a bigger company, in which case that company's pulling the strings anyway. But you can, I mean, the easiest one surely is taking your own reusable bags. Not just carrier bags, but produce bags as well. Taking those, putting your fruits and vegetables in those. You want to be asking your local stores, you know, when are you going to implement a plastic bag ban? I know that's, you know, for a lot of us in the US, that's not going to go down well. They're going to probably laugh at you. But you should be writing up the chain to bigger levels. You want to be taking your own silverware with you around so you can not have plastic stuff all the time. Even for, you know, going to get an ice cream, you have a spoon in your bag. Same with a straw. You can also take your own takeout containers, have it in the car. So when you go for a takeout meal, especially if your alternative is a styrofoam tub, you can use that. For God's sake, please don't use plastic bottles anymore. I don't feel like anyone should be not carrying around with them a reusable water bottle. Please, that's such a simple one. Alright, let me check the time. Okay, we've got about another minute. And all of these things, again, just want to mention, they don't mean anything. You could never use a straw again in your life. You could drink out of a plastic bottle every disposable plastic bottle every day for the rest of your life. If the changes don't happen at the top, our individual actions are meaningless. That said, if you talk about it, you are doing a massive thing. By reducing your, alright, we're going to begin a stride in a minute. By reducing your waste, as in food waste, buying less food, or if you have to waste food, putting it in compost, signing up for a composting service if one doesn't exist, and or doing one in your back garden, but please read up on that if you are going to do that, because that's really easy to do if you get it right, but a lot of people don't, and then they give up on it. Okay, I'm going to have you do a stride. I'm about to head down a hill, so I'm not going to do it. In 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to keep talking. And so reducing your food waste. Stop buying as much food. Thinking through when you go to the store and come to a jog. Okay? Thinking through when you go to the store, how much am I actually going to use? Finding ways to use those leftover ingredients of things that you have bought. How can I be creative to make a unique meal that maybe isn't a recipe I found, but I'm like throwing these things together and see if they'll work. Last night we had butternut squash, red cabbage, black beans, tacos, and guacamole. Those are some things we had. Had that red cabbage that needed to be used. Had some black beans that were already cooked, and it worked. We also used a sauce that we had that already had from a takeout meal. So just try and reduce that food waste. And if you do have to use it, please compost it or find a way to pass it on to someone else if it's in date. That is a massive one, as is obviously reducing your beef consumption, but you're just moving to a more plant-based diet in general. I don't think I've said it. We have one more stride, yeah. Okay, I'm going to have you do another one in 3, 2, and 1. I'll let you finish that and then I'll talk for a second. Okay, and come to a walk. We are done. Okay, I'll just finish what I was going to say, which is, I don't think I've mentioned it anywhere, but I am actually a vegetarian. Have been for probably coming up on a year now. But you don't have to be a vegetarian or a vegan, but just reducing the amount of times in a week you have meat is helpful. Not if you ask the environmentalists, unless they're like, hardcore people who don't really get it, they're not going to tell you to cut out all meat and go vegan overnight. It's just not going to happen, and it's not realistic. Okay, that was a bit of a mess at the end there. I definitely should have started that conversation earlier. If you want to support me, you can go to Patreon, support me there. You can also leave a rating and a review. You can also, a big one is sharing this on your social media, either a picture of you or a picture of the screen of what you've been listening to. And I'll try and remember to put those 3 links in the show notes. How to Save a Planet is actually really enjoyable to listen to. It's funny. The hosts, although one of them is leaving, the hosts are really fun together. Definitely have a woman crush on the woman. She's amazing. All right, let's finish by touching some element of nature. Hear that lovely noise? Some leaves starting to brown. They've still been falling. Thank you for joining me, friends. Have a wonderful week. Before we end this episode, I just want to take a moment to shout out my podcast editor, Jeremy Nessel, who has done such a wonderful job of looking after my podcast, taking out all the mishaps in the episodes, while still keeping in the vulnerability and the realness and the rawness of the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where I take out the ums and the ers and the sometimes the delay in words, because I think it's very important to keep that authenticity. We're surrounded by perfected and manicured everything, and I think it's really important that Running for Real stays that way. So thank you to Jeremy for your work. I also want to thank Maria Vargas and Amber Moore, who are also part of my team. They've been a big part of this community and me being able to build this brand. So just want to give them a shout out too. All right, let's get right back to the end of this episode.